Welcome back to another video. Today we're talking about raw food and let's get into it. If this is your first time on my channel, then welcome. I'm glad that you're passionate about learning more about dog food and how you can make the best decisions for your dog. I'll leave our latest video on how to decipher all of the dog food labels linked here or here, whichever one. And without further ado, let's get into raw food. So after going through the ins and outs of the kibble world, it was time to address the elephant in the room: raw food. I mean, it kind of seems like a good idea for dog parents that don't want to feed overly processed kibble to their pet. However, I did not expect the controversy that I found. An article published on Dog Food Advisor actually states the potential benefits of feeding raw. Those benefits include firmer stools, improved digestion, healthier skin and coat, reduced allergy symptoms, and better weight management. There have been many reports of improved health when chronically ill pets were switched from a commercial product to a raw dog food. The dog food enthusiasts seem to think that it's the best thing that they've ever done for their dog, but the vets seem to have a different opinion. A study conducted by the FDA that ran from 2010 to 2012 tested the presence of Salmonella and Listeria in various pet foods, including raw food. These two bacteria are known to cause illness to both pets and humans if you come in contact, and can grow on infected foods. In the second year of the study, the researchers included 196 samples of the commercially available raw dog and cat food, and of that 196 raw pet food samples, 15 were positive for Salmonella and 32 were positive for Listeria. This meant that 24% of the samples tested that were raw dog food actually tested positive for pathogens, in comparison to 120 samples of dry dog food that all tested negative. Multiple veterinarians caution against feeding raw diets due to the increased risk of Salmonella infection to the pet parent and the spread of bacteria. Other concerns include nutritional inadequacy and bone ingestion or blockage. Also, many pets that may not be showing any symptoms of the bacteria being present can still become carriers of the disease and can spread it to other animals in the household, like if you are sharing a litter box. This, of course, causes a problem if you have a pet that is more compromised, a senior pet, or an already chronically ill pet. One other thing to consider is that an article published on Fetch by WebMed suggests that some pets might not be a candidate for a raw diet. These includes puppies, dogs with pancreatitis that need to be transitioned a lot slower, dogs with severe liver problems, and dogs with kidney disease. But how dangerous are these bacteria, and is there a way to be a little bit smarter about the process of feeding raw? The vet who was interviewed for the article on Fetch by WebMed, whose specialty is in holistic medicine, states that for most animals, it's more beneficial than processed foods. The whole concern about bad bacteria is overblown. When people are feeding a raw diet, they know it's not sterile and they're more careful about washing their hands. Feeding a raw diet is no different than cooking chicken for the family. You have to clean up the counter and your knife. With that said, it is kind of a tough argument because you kind of are exposed to these bacteria no matter what, whether you're feeding raw or not. And the risk of infection could be possible even if you don't have pets. Of course, if you're feeding raw every day, this can become a greater risk since you are continuously touching raw meat. Another thing to mention is that the FDA actually states that the concern about the bacteria is not really a concern for your dog, but mostly a concern for people and immunocompromised people, children, pregnant women, and other people that might be more sensitive to the bacteria that can lead to long-term illness. The FDA also provides a list for consumers that do want to feed raw, and it explains all the precautions that you should be taking when feeding raw, although it is a possibility that you could encounter some of these bacteria and get sick from it. Those that have successfully transitioned their dog to raw diets say that some of the effects are immediate and that it's totally worth the risk. Some of those immediate effects are shinier coat, better breath, reduced allergies, and less shedding and itching. So if you have a dog with allergies that is going through any of these problems, then this might be something that you might want to research into further. Now, there's some things about this controversy that are just too hard to ignore. Although the risk of pathogens when feeding raw is a possibility, it is difficult to ignore the potential risk factors of feeding kibble in the long run. Chemicals and mystery recipes found in kibble have been known to cause disease, not to mention accidental deaths as well when brands have dangerous recalls. For example, Purina Pro Plan in 2023 had to recall their EL prescription diet because of heightened levels of vitamin D. This became such a problem that they actually had to extend their recall longer than they thought because the toxicity was still going on and the reports were still being reported through a longer time period than they even thought. This is not to bash Purina because it happens to a lot of brands. There's recalls every year on multiple brands and for different reasons, but to make a comparison on the fact that kibble and other dog food get recalled every year, and maybe the concern of feeding raw is just blown out of proportion, like the holistic vet suggested. Just in 2021, Midwestern Pet Foods had a recall that killed 120 dogs and caused 220 other dogs to be ill. So regardless whether you're feeding raw or not, the dangers of your dog becoming ill from what they're eating is still a possibility. A vet from Hillcrest Animal Hospital writes that in the last 6 years, she has seen 6 deaths from bacterial contamination in raw diet. She says that she does not see a lot of pets being fed raw, so 1 death a year is actually a big deal. She then goes on in her article to advise that most cases that she saw were due to nutritional inadequacies and that it was in young animals, which we have already established are not candidates for raw diet. Although I am not discounting the fact that this vet did see some unfortunate circumstances coming from raw diets, questions like these kind of just pop up in my mind, like, does she not see many patients that feed raw because they're generally healthier patients? Were the pet parents of these unfortunate cases feeding a commercially sourced raw diet that is approved by AAFCO as a complete and balanced form of nutrition? Or were they just portioning the meals from the grocery store to the bowl in like a Liver King style? How many patients does she have that have passed away in the past year in comparison that have been feeding kibble or a prescription diet? And the last one is, how many of our patients that are not feeding raw are having to feed a prescription diet because of a chronic illness that eventually is going to lead to more complications? Sadly, I don't have the answer to those questions, but it is hard to ignore as part of the whole picture. There needs to be a distinction in the realm of raw dog food because there are different nuances that just contribute to a lot of factors that could be prevented if we just had a way to categorize these foods. I mean, are these studies talking about commercially sold diet, supermarket meat to bowl type diet, odd versus frozen type diet, or Liver King style, like I said earlier, where you just go to the butcher, have them pick out a bunch of meat and you just put it in a bowl already on the bone and don't do any kind of prep work for that. The reason why this is important is because the lack of this distinction causes a misinformation of where the problem with nutritional inadequacy is coming from. It seems like the problem is coming from just people buying meat at the grocery store or at the butcher and putting it in a bowl and calling it a meal without knowing the nutritional requirements of an adult dog. In addition to this, the issue about bacteria kind of feels to me like they are making the consumer feel like they're inadequate or incapable of taking safety measures in order to prevent the spread of this bacteria, and therefore it kind of scares the consumer into thinking that they won't be able to do it. This makes me think like there's some kind of bigger agenda by the kibble corporations that want to keep pushing the leave it to the experts approach. If you are still uncertain about whether feeding raw is the right thing for your dog, many articles point to fresh food or 100% human grade dog food being the answer to both safety and convenience. And if you want to learn more about human grade dog food, I'll leave our latest video on that linked up here. Because of the lack of distinction and all of the possibilities that come with making your own raw dog food, I believe that a commercially produced raw food is going to be the best option, as the manufacturer would be responsible for testing the product for quality and levels of nutrition that are in agreement with the AAFCO guidelines. And in an effort to give you a good recommendation to feed raw, I have actually reached out to a brand that I am interested in maybe switching my dogs to. But after doing all this research for this video, I was a little concerned that maybe I needed more information from this brand. So I reached out to them and asked them about how they ensure that their product is not being contaminated before it's being frozen or after it has reached the consumer, and this is what they said. We take food safety very seriously. We eliminate the potential risk of contamination, bacteria, virus, or parasites by 1, only using human-grade USDA certified ingredients, 2, keeping all ingredients frozen from our facility to your freezer, and 3, we use a human-grade facility that meets all food preparation conditions required by human facilities and is tested regularly for contaminants. They then went on to say that we exclusively partner with human-grade vendors who meet stringent food safety specs, frequently testing against E. coli, Listeria, Salmonella, contaminants, etc. And they make their food in FDA, USDA-approved human-grade facilities that follow strict hygiene and testing standards. This kind of put my mind at ease a little bit on the fact that there is testing being done at these facilities and that they're using a human grade facility, not just a human grade product, but a human grade facility that is also going through all of these tests on a monthly basis. But bacteria is not the only problem. So then I went on to ask them about how they ensure that their meals are nutritionally adequate and that they meet AAFCO standards. And this is what they said. Yes, Maeve is AAFCO compliant. We work with board certified veterinarian nutritionists and clinicians, as well as experts in food safety to make sure our meals are safe and balanced. Furthermore, our guaranteed analysis is attached in more detail here. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask us, and we're here to help every step of the way. So this is what they provided as their guaranteed analysis, which tells you what percentage of protein, fat, fiber, moisture, and all those things are present in the food. They also have an AAFCO approved logo on their bag, and they are vet certified. So all those things make me feel a lot better than just buying a steak at the supermarket and putting it in a bowl and calling that a balanced meal. As always, don't take my word for it. This was not a sponsored video whatsoever by Maeve, even though I wish it was. But always check the ingredients of the product that you are trying to purchase. Talk to your veterinarian if your dog has any illnesses or maybe chronic conditions, and see if this is something that maybe you can transition your dog into. So the question is, do you have what it takes to do the extra legwork of researching the brands, making sure your food bowls are always clean in between meals when feeding raw food, following the FDA guidelines on how to make sure you're not spreading Salmonella or Listeria all over your house, and stay up to date with best practices? Or are you going to leave it to the experts? What is your opinion about feeding raw? Do you have any experience with this diet? If so, please leave it down below. I'm very interested in this topic, and I'm sure other viewers are interested as well. If you enjoyed this video, thank you so much for sticking around till the end. I always appreciate it, and I will be making more videos on these topics. If you have any suggestions for videos, then leave them down below as well, and I'll try my best to get to them. Other than that, I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.